Warning, the Renegade Recruiter is not for the soft, timid, or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned. Prepare yourself for the no bullshit, zero fluff. Quick, dirty, and uncensored secrets for any serious recruitment, staffing, and search business owner who wants to earn more money with less work and fewer headaches, without having to kiss ass or bend over backwards to please anyone. He's a relentless and fearless renegade who will stop at nothing to reveal the harsh, unforgiving, and brutal truth about what it really takes to succeed in this business. He's a guy people love to hate and hate to love. It's your host, Terry Edwards. The Renegade Recruiter is unleashed.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Terry Edwards, Renegade Recruiter, and welcome to this week's podcast. Of course, we're joined by our host, Drew. How are you, Drew?
I'm good, thank you, Terry. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for asking. And this week we're interviewing the copywriter extraordinaire, Vicky Fraser. In Vicky's summary on LinkedIn, her headline is, "You can't fire me because I quit." And that's exactly how she started her business. She actually says that she's on employment now, but I don't know about that. But it's a real pleasure to have you here today, Vicky. Vicky, how are you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you.
So, Vicky, why don't you give us a brief introduction into yourself and who and what you do? That would be great.
Yeah, I'll try and be brief because I've had a chaotic adulthood, I guess you could say. First of all, thank you very much for having me on. Second of all, yeah, I'm a copywriter and author and sort of chaotic entrepreneur, small business ass kicker, and I don't know, I've done all sorts of stuff really. I got married really young, and then I went to university really old, and I did archaeology and ancient history, and I can read and write ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, which is a skill that is useful every day, let me tell you. And then I joined the police as a CSI, a crime scene examiner, obviously. Didn't get on so well there, so I joined a national charity as a marketing executive with no experience at all and got on very well there. And then got seduced to another company closer to home and got on very badly there. And got to utter the immortal words, "You can't fire me because I quit." And then obviously started my own business.
Did you actually utter those words?
Yes, I did.
Good girl, good for you.
Awesome.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting your own business in quite the way that I have, but hey, it worked for me.
Yeah. Just on that, Vic, I'm just fascinated about, did you go in thinking, "I'm not bloody having this, I'll tell him where to stick his or her to stick their job," or did it just sort of unfold in front of you?
To be honest, if I'm completely honest, although it was a terrible place to work, but I was a terrible, terrible employee, and I made my own life very, very difficult. I handled a lot of stuff really, really badly, looking back. But I can't even remember what had happened, but something happened on one particular day, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going home. And I went home. And I had the next day off, and then I came back in the day after, and they said, We'd like you to come into a meeting with us, please. And I walked into the meeting with a friend of mine she's lovely, and she came in with me. And before they could even start, I stood up and said, "You can't fire me because I quit," and then kind of said my piece. And that's kind of how it happened. And it was a culmination of 6 months of my sanity and
Wait a minute, Vicky, I'm sorry about this, but you don't know what they called you in the room. They could have been promoting you and giving you a pay rise.
No, they were going to fire me.
But you don't really know, do you, Vicky?
No, I do. I do know that they were going to fire me. But it was all good. It was all good in the end.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So yeah, and I kind of drifted into running my own business then. So there you go.
So, I mean, tell us a bit more about your business now and what you do currently.
Okay, so I am a copywriter, and as I say, I kind of got into it by accident because when I quit the job from hell, a friend of mine who runs a creative agency who I'd taken over to the new place, and I still feel bad about that, but there you go. Gave me a ring and said, because I'd rang him and said I've quit, and he was like, "Oh my god," and then rang me back a little bit later and said, "Would you like some freelance work?" And I was kind of gibbering in a corner you know, because I quit this job with nothing to go to, and you know, it was kind of terrifying, and I was applying for temping work and generally panicking a lot. And he kind of got in touch and said, would you like some freelance work? And I thought, well, there's never going to be a better time to start my own business. Yeah. And I'd always wanted to start my own business, and I knew I was a good writer, so I thought, yeah, hell yeah, why not? And that's what I started doing. Then I discovered that I didn't know anything at all about copywriting, so I set about learning how to sell and how to use words to sell and all the rest of it. And now I have a few private clients for whom I write copy and help sell more, you know, of their stuff. And I also run it's like a little business mentoring group. It's not terribly different from yours. Yeah, I've got my own little inner circle of small businesses, and a lot of copywriters and creative types, because we find it very difficult to sell ourselves, and that's what I do now.
Can you, this is, Vicky, for anyone who is unaware of what you mean when you say that you're a copywriter, can you just explain exactly what that is?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the legalities of of keeping your work safe, because every now and then I will get an email from somebody or a question from somebody saying, can you help me to protect my intellectual property? And I'm like, nope, no idea how to do that. So it's copywriting with a W, and it's basically salesmanship in print is how I like to call it, and that's not my words. I think it was Claude Hopkins who originally said that.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just basically selling yourself using your words. That's simple as that.
Yeah, and it's something that Drew and I do a lot of, and to be fair, we both love doing it. But for many people, it can be. They kind of. I know some really good salespeople, but when it comes to writing sales copy, I can honestly say they're crap. Why do you think that is, Vicky?
You know what, I've thought about this quite a lot, and I think that when they sit down and there's a piece of paper in front of them, they contract this kind of corporate zombie virus, and they start talking like, I don't know, it's like they suddenly feel, I think it's that they suddenly feel frightened because they're not used to writing, they're very used to talking, and you know, they can close a deal face to face and all the rest of it. But I think as soon as they sit down with a piece of paper, they're not in their comfort zone anymore, and so they get a little bit insecure, and they think, you know what, I need to use all of these, I need to find some big words, and I need to impress people, and I need to make myself sound clever. And I think that I genuinely think that that's the problem. I think they get all nervous and panicky about it, and they forget how to communicate, because most people are actually pretty good communicators. Not everybody, some people are atrocious at it, but most people are pretty good communicators face to face, especially when they're talking about something that they know really well. And I think when they sit down in front of a blank screen or a piece of paper, they panic, and they forget that actually communicating with their clients is simply communicating with another human being. And that's all it is. People do business with people and not with businesses, and I think they forget that, and they just become this kind of faceless, besuited, jargon corporation, and that's the problem.
I think that's a really good point. And what I add to that is that anybody that's sitting there thinking, I've got to write some copy to, be it to sell a candidate or to sell my services or whatever, the feedback on that is just write the way you talk, rather than the corporate BS that you may be tempted to indulge, so to speak. That's a really good point there, Vicky. Very good point.
Yeah, and if you're panicky about the actual act of writing, then don't bloody write. Just record yourself and then transcribe it, because that often will get rid of this kind of barrier that people's brains put in between themselves and the keyboard. And you can just, you can pretend. In fact, have a chat with, get somebody to ask you about how you can help them solve their problems, and just record the conversation, and then you'll have there probably some really, really good copy. They'll need tidying up a bit to get rid of the filler words and, the ums and the ahs and the swear words and whatnot. But, you can use that, and you've probably then got copy that's 80% better than you would have written, and 99% better than most of what your competitors will come up with.
Yeah, really good point. That's a great tip there about recording your sales presentation. You said there about editing the swear words. Did you really mean that, Vicky? Because I've read your copy and you don't do that.
No, of course I didn't mean it. but that all comes down to knowing your audience, though. I mean, if I was talking, if your audience is a church group, then edit out your swear words. Yeah. If your audience is business owners like me, then throw as many fucks and bollocks in as you want, because it's not gonna bother them. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for that, Vicky.
You're welcome.
Awesome. And
Free
Vicky, I was going to say, just on that, let's say I'm a business owner, listen to this now, and I record myself selling my services in some way and get the copy down. Where do I use that copy? Once I've got it sort of written down in text form, what do I do with it?
That depends what your goal is, really, and you know who you're talking to. If you were, I don't know, if you're trying to get sign-ups to your email list, for example, stick it on a landing page. You know, it's very much going to depend what problem you're solving and who you're talking to, and that's where you've got to start, really. Who you're talking to and what's their big problem and pain. Start from there, and you know, decide how you're going to solve the problem, and that's it's going to write itself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's
What
the
you meant.
point. So you told us what you do. You told us how you kind of fell into it. Tell us something interesting or funny that not many people know about you, Vicky.
Okay, I am a circus performer, and I am obsessed with socks.
Obsessed with?
Socks. About this time last year, I decided I didn't have enough socks, and instead of doing what any normal person
socks! Oh, sorry, thank goodness for that!
What did you think I said, Terence?
I've got way too much information there, but I get it. Stop. Okay. Yep.
Socks. Bags for your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went online and accidentally bought about 30 pairs of socks. So there you go.
Really?
What made you do that?
I needed new socks, man. And
30 pairs.
yeah, well, I kind of, the thing is, you look for the cool socks, and there were cow print socks, and there were socks with lobsters on, and there were socks with tiger faces on, and owls, and you know, there were too many socks to choose from, so I bought all the socks.
Excellent. And your circus act, what do you do in your circus act? Do you juggle the socks?
No, I can't juggle. I'm really uncoordinated. It's bad. I'm very, very clumsy, actually, so I don't really understand how I got into circus. Anyway, I've been pole dancing for about 12 years or so, and 3 or 4 years ago I discovered that there was also a circus group in Warwick, and so I now do trapeze and rope and silks and that kind of thing as well, and I'm just about to start doing a bit of gymnastics because I want to get a bit more flexible.
Awesome.
And so yeah, I've been doing that for a few years, and it's great.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Vic, how did you get into pole dancing?
Really randomly, a girl that I worked with many, many years ago said, "Oh, there's this class, let's go and have a go." And I was a bit like, "I'm not really into the whole stripper thing," but it's nothing to do with it's nothing to do with the whole stripper thing. I mean, you can go and do stripper pole dance classes if you want to, but it's not really my thing. Mostly because when I try and do sexy, I look like a clown on crack. So.
I've got to say, Vicky, sounds quite attractive to me, but anyway.
Well, it's probably a niche, Terry. It's probably a niche. But yeah, I did it for because it's basically like gymnastics it's vertical gymnastics basically, and anyone who thinks it's just for kind of writhing around a pole doesn't really know what they're talking about, because you've got to be incredibly strong and athletic and, you know, willing to fall on your face a few times, and it's just really good for strength and flexibility, and it's good fun, really good fun.
Excellent. And does that help in any way in terms of your business, your copywriting, Vicky?
Oh, definitely. I would say the circus stuff helps a bit more because I've been doing the pole for so long now. I've kind of forgotten what it was like to not be able to do it. But the circus stuff I'm still learning, so I'm only a couple of years in. And when you're trying something, I mean, this stuff's scary because even though you've got a crash mat, there's a very real possibility, and you know, I do it often, that you're going to fall off. And so it's quite a scary thing. And there's a particular move where you go from sitting and then you kind of fall backwards and just catch the trapeze just with your feet and ankles. Now that's really scary because if you don't catch the trapeze with your feet and ankles, you're going to land on your head. And it's not, if you do it properly, you're not going to land on your head, but it's a really scary thing to do. And to kind of force yourself to do it and push yourself that far out of your comfort zone is really good, because it means I don't think that I would be doing the things that I do in my business now if I wasn't doing some of the stuff that I'm doing in circus or in climbing. So I do rock climbing as well, but all of that stuff is scary and it makes you push yourself out of your comfort zone, and if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone, you're never going to achieve what you could, and you're never going to risk failure, and you're never going to risk rejection. And you don't learn anything from constant success. You learn from your little failures with a small f, because the only real failure is if you give up. I know that sounds true.
Great point.
No, it's a great point. And tell us a bit more about that. I mean, you mentioned there that you're never really going to succeed in anything unless you push yourself out of your comfort zone. Why is that so important for a business owner to do that?
I think because first of all, because nobody likes rejection. Nobody likes rejection, and if they say they do, they're lying. And second of all, we live in this society, in our culture, our Western culture, is very geared against failure and mistakes. And I think, and children are taught from a very young age, it's not about making mistakes and learning from it. It's about getting things right. And if you always do stuff that you're going to get right, you're never gonna learn anything. And if you make mistakes and learn where you've gone wrong, if you feel safe to do that and feel okay to do that, then you can push yourself, and safe in the knowledge that if you do make a mistake, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're stupid or a failure or anything else. It means that you're learning something. And I think that's really, really important, because a lot of people don't want to look, nobody wants to look stupid in front of other people. And I think we all put far too much weight on what other people think. And also we think that people are paying more attention to us than we actually are a lot of the time. And it's actually, most people won't notice your little mistakes. So you need to go out there and be willing to make them. And if you do make a big whopping mistake, then just shrug your shoulders, own it, and carry on.
Yeah, some real gems there, Vicky. And I think what I'd add to that as well is that, in my opinion, the people look at other business people and think, wow, they're so successful, and they don't appreciate that to get that success, they must have encountered some failure along the way.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the other things, and I was going to kind of say this a bit later, but I'll say it now. One of my favourite quotes ever is from, believe it or not, Rob Lowe, the actor. Mm-hmm. And he said, never compare your insides to other people's outsides, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And quite often people are presenting this face to you that bears no resemblance at all to what's going on actually in their lives. I'm not saying that people are lying about their success, although I'm fairly sure some people are. What I'm saying is that you don't see all of the hard work that's gone on, and all of the mistakes that they've made, and all of the little failures they've had along the way. And you see this face that either they're presenting, or that just for whatever reason is the only face that they've got visible. And we look at them, people who have achieved this stuff, and we think, my God, I'm struggling to sell this product, or I'm struggling to do this, or I'm struggling to get up in the morning. And you think, actually, they're struggling with all sorts of stuff as well, and they've probably struggled with a million things before, but they've kind of learned from all that, and they've moved past it. And what you see is the result of them having done all of this stuff. They didn't just wake up one day and make it happen.
Mm. That's a great takeaway there. I think you said earlier as well about, I think it was Les Brown who said, other people's opinion of you is none of your damn business.
Yes, that's a really good one.
Yeah, but I love that quote you gave up from Rob Lowe. So never compare your inside to other people's outside.
Yes, because you don't know the turmoil they're going through.
No.
And it's much easier said than done, and it's one of those things you have to keep telling yourself and practicing, because like anything else, you get better at not giving a shit with practice. But I mean, not giving a shit about anything, but not caring about that kind of thing, and just remembering that what you see is not necessarily the way things are.
Excellent. You mentioned Rob Lowe there in that quote. Are there any business books that you've read that you'd recommend to other business owners, Vicky?
Oh God, so many of them, so many. I have a book problem. Sitting behind me right now is 2 stacks of books that if they were put in one stack of books, they would actually be taller than me.
Wow.
That's my to read list, and all of the other ones are in a bookcase. Anyway, but yeah, Tested Advertising Methods by John Caples. The 4th edition, if you can get it, is brilliant. It's just stuff that works, and it's an old book. Don't be put off by that, because the principles of marketing haven't changed in the last 200 years, and they ain't going to change in the next 200 years.
Here.
And Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins, which is a tiny little book, and it is absolutely stuffed full of gems, and it'll take you an hour to read, and then you should read it again and again and again. So there's that one. Also, Influence by Robert Cialdini, which is it's about how to not get taken in by sales and marketing, but there's a lot you can take away from it as well. And and you can also learn how to market and sell yourself ethically. So there's none of this kind of hoodwinking people and manipulating them into doing the stuff that you want them to do, because you can read the manipulations that he's experienced in his experiments. He's a psychologist, by the way, and who specializes in persuasion. So you can read his book, see what's worked and the stuff that you don't feel comfortable with, like the stuff that cults use to brainwash people, and the stuff that shady salesmen use to sell you stuff that doesn't work, and that kind of thing. So that's great. Yeah. That's really, really great. And The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which is just an awesome book, and that kind of changed the way I thought about a lot of my behavior and a lot of my decisions and my habits and all the rest of it. And it just, it makes you, it's quite alarming how much control you don't have over the stuff you do every day, and that book makes you just question everything that you do and all the decisions you make, and it's really good. It's good read as well.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So Vicky, you're the author of the book Business for Superheroes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that? Who's it for? What do you get when you read it?
Yeah, I'm giggling because I still can't believe I'm an author, because it's hilarious. It's one of those things that I was like, yeah, I'm going to write a book, and then I wrote a book, and I was like, shit, I've written a book. So, it's my book. It's Business for Superheroes: From Scraping the Bottom to Six Figures in Just 6 Months, which is a crap tagline. I should really change that. Anyway, it's kind of for small business owners who are either just starting or about to start, and they see all of this shiny bullshit about, not that the 4-hour work week is bullshit, it isn't, but on the face of it, it kind of looks like, oh, you can run a business in 4 hours, and if you read the book, that's not what it's about at all. But there's an awful lot of that kind of thing around, and people look at it and think, oh, I don't need to do this, that, and the other, and then they start and they realize that actually running a business is really fucking hard work, and it never stops, and sometimes you just don't want to do it anymore. You wake up some days and you don't ever hear people say that. It's like, I wake up and fucking hate my business sometimes, and I don't want to do it anymore, and then I'll wake up the next day and it'll all be fine. But you don't ever hear that side of things from people. So I kind of really wanted to know what really happens when you first start a business, when I first started my business, and there wasn't really anything out there that I could find. So that's what I wrote. I wrote about the panic of feast and famine, and the panic of working madly on everything that comes along, and being afraid to put your prices up because you're so desperate for the cash, and the despair that you feel when you realize that it never stops, but also the despair that you feel when you consider having to go back to a job, because once you've run your own business, you can't ever work for anybody else. It's just, I don't think I couldn't anyway.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done, and it's a complete guide, basically, to how I started my business rather chaotically, and how I started to grow it also rather chaotically, and how I, broke 6 figures for the first time at the end of last year. I turned over 6 figures, and that's turnover, by the way, because that's another thing that pisses me off, is that people are like, oh yeah, I've got this $1 million business, and what they don't say is that that's just turnover. You never hear the profits.
No, yeah.
So my turnover, and this is me being honest, my turnover is like, I don't know the exact figures, but I know it was over 100 grand for the last year, and I'm really proud of that. And I put an awful lot of that back into investing in myself and learning new stuff and learning how to do things, and investing in my marketing. So my profits are much lower than that, but I'm really pleased with that. So there you go. It's basically the Lazy Tramp's guide to getting a shitload of stuff done.
Yeah, where can we go?
Go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, where can we go to get a copy of that book?
Oh, you can get it at www.businessforsuperheroes.com.
And what I was going to ask you is, Vicky, people listening to this go, yeah, but my business is different. What would you say to that?
No, it's not. Nobody's okay. You might be in a different industry, but people are people, and everybody has a problem that needs solving. And if your product or service doesn't solve a problem for somebody, then you shouldn't be selling it. So, if your product or service does solve a problem for somebody, then it's not different whether you sell belts or copywriting. You might approach some things slightly differently, but the strategies and the principles behind the thing are exactly the same. And if you just start from your ideal customer's perspective, their problem and their pain, and if you go down the road of I want to help them solve it, then you're never going to go far wrong.
Yeah. Another Really good point. Then it reminds me of it must be about 2 years ago. I was talking to a client, and one of the things that we recommended they do to get business was use Facebook pay-per-click. And this particular client targets investment bankers, and he said, Terry, my clients are too sophisticated. They won't be on Facebook. Do you know he gets most of his business now from Facebook? Because you made a really good point there. It's not the business, it's the people. And that same CEO of an investment bank, as long as you rightly said, as long as you can solve their problem, that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Yeah, you can look for them anywhere, but in the end, people, most people hang out on Facebook or on a forum or somewhere online or offline, and it's just a matter of finding out where they hang out, what they care about, and then offering to help them. Really.
Yeah. Awesome. Really good point. Yeah. So you talked about some of your successes, and you're quite upfront at the very beginning to say you've made some mistakes along the way. What about now? What's the biggest challenges or mistakes that you've made in business, say over the last couple of years or so, Vicky?
Probably one of my biggest mistakes. I'm going to go back a little bit further than that because I think it's relevant and it's something I still struggle with from time to time. But when I was in the job from hell, I was in a really bad place anyway, and I suffered from chronic depression and all sorts of things. But I blamed all of my problems on everything else. It was always, oh, this happened and that's why I couldn't do this, and that happened and that's why I couldn't do that. And whilst sometimes shit does happen to you that you can't do anything about, how you deal with it is entirely up to you. And I dealt with it really appallingly. And I was an utter twat, basically. I made my own life really, really difficult and handled a lot of situations very, very badly. And it was all because I wasn't taking responsibility for my own reactions and my own behaviour, because you can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. And I think when I realised that was a massive revelation, and I'm a much nicer person now than I was before. So that's really cool. And kind of linked into that is, in business, probably one of my biggest mistakes over the last couple of years was I once sent out, I'm laughing because it's so embarrassing, but I once sent out a client's advert with the wrong URL on it. And so we were kind of getting no hits at all on this print. It was a print ad going to a website. We got no hits at all, and we're really baffled by this. And so I tested the whole thing again, as I thought, but it turns out I hadn't tested it in the first place, and it had the wrong fucking URL on it. And she was really nice about it, and took some of the responsibility. But ultimately, I hold myself responsible because I should have realised that, And I refunded her in full and offered to pay for another ad and all the rest of it. But I overcame it by owning up to it and not trying to dodge it. And I think a lot of people are frightened of. I don't think they try and dodge responsibility because they're shady. I think they're afraid of the reaction that people will have. And actually, I've found that if you fuck up and then you say, you know what, this was my mistake and I'm really sorry, most people will be fine with it.
You're listening to the Renegade Recruiter Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.therenegaderecruiter.com.
Absolutely. It's a bit like, if you get, you buy something or whatever, and something goes wrong, what pisses you off if you can't get a response to it and nobody accepts responsibility? But the moment that somebody says, do you know what, Mr. Buyer, we've screwed up here and I'm really sorry about that and this is what we're going to do, you're absolutely fine with it then, aren't you? Whatever the screw up is.
Absolutely. And, I don't abandon a company because they've made a mistake. I abandon a company because they don't deal with the mistake well.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for most people. There's very few mistakes that you can make that are completely irredeemable. And if you deal with it well, then you can walk away. You do get the odd, arsehole, and it's not. I'm not saying the customer's always right by any means. If you make a mistake, you own up to it, and that's that. And sometimes you have personality clashes. Like I had a client that I just couldn't do what she needed, and in the end, I gave her a big refund for a lot of stuff, and we parted ways, relatively amicably, because there's no point in persevering sometimes. If some people you're just not going to get on with, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And that took me a long time to be okay with as well, because I take stuff very, very personally, and I get really upset when I think that I haven't done something well enough for somebody, and I think that's a good lesson to learn as well, is that it's okay to sometimes not do what you would like to do, because you learn from it and you move on.
Awesome. So Vicky, you shared some of the mistakes that you've made in the past. What about other business owners? What mistakes do you see made by others?
Oh, the biggest one of all is making it all about them. Because let me tell you, business owners that are listening, nobody cares about you and your business except you and your mum. And, you know, they don't come at it from their customer's point of view. It's all about them, their product, their service, their, you know, their history, and oh my God, who cares? Is basically what their customers are thinking. And they're boring as well. And, you know, that sounds a little bit harsh, but it's true. And it's because of what we said at the beginning. I think people get a bit frightened when they're writing stuff, or they hire a copywriter who doesn't really understand sales and won't put the time into understanding the company personality. And it just takes the personality out of it. So you end up with corporate bullshit and jargon and smoke and mirrors, and it's boring and you sound like everybody else. So, you know, these business owners do have personality and integrity. Everybody has an interesting story to tell, but it doesn't come out for most business owners because, I don't know, I think they're afraid of standing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get this, you know, Drew and I get this every day of the week, you know, when we're talking to our clients, and they talk about, you know, we've been in business for 20 years and our mission statement's this, and we say exactly the same. Nobody gives a shit about you and your business. And the way I try and communicate, I communicate this is say, look, imagine that you go into your local retailer and you want a pair of black jeans, and the shop assistant comes over to you and says, "Hi, welcome to our store. Let me show you a photograph of our management team. And this is our mission statement. And we're experts in retail." You go, "I couldn't give a shit. I just want a pair of jeans."
No, yeah.
I'd back away slowly.
Yeah. I mean, we laugh, but this is what most business owners do in their marketing, on their website, in their emails. This is what they're doing. They're just talking about themselves.
Yeah, they do. And, you know, what you actually need to do is say, you know what, you're hurting. This is hurting you. And you twist the knife a little bit, and then you're like, would you like to not hurt anymore? And, you know, this is how you do it. And that's very, you know, very, very simple. But if you follow that kind of pain, knife twisty solution thing, then you can't really go far wrong.
No.
And you'll be, if you do it in your own voice, and, you know, you don't have to be over the top crazy, because sometimes it can seem a little bit forced. You don't try and be like somebody else. But if you're just you know, really you, and really honest about who you are and what you're doing, and the people that you're trying to help, then you're going to stand out automatically in a quieter way than kind of bells and whistles and, you know, Donald Trump.
Right.
But to give him his proper name.
Can I put you on the spot here? And you can say, well, it's too late now, I'm going to put you on the spot. But imagine that you were selling. I just want to give, you know, Greg can give us an example. You're selling, you're going to write some copy for selling ointment for people that have got piles. So
yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Just give us an illustration of what you just, because that's a great point there about, you know, the pain and the solution and so on. So if you were writing copy that sold ointment, somebody suffering from piles, and I put you on the spot. You haven't, you know, you didn't know I was going to ask you this or anything. Just give us an overview of where you start, and because quite frankly, what you share with us now, any business owner can use, whatever their business, to apply for their copywriting. But it'd be a great example.
Yeah. Okay. Thankfully, I've never had piles, but I hear tell it's very painful. So I think I'd probably start off with something like. And this obviously will depend on if you're going for the older audience, I might temper my language, but is your arse burning? Because that's anybody who has got, you know, the ring of fire, as it's, is going to look at, they're going to look at that headline and go, yeah, actually it is. And it's going to get their attention because, you know, that's their big burning, excuse the pun, problem at the moment.
Yeah.
And if somebody is in pain, that's all that they're focused on. So, yeah, you know, is your butt burning? You know, do you feel like you've had a vindaloo every night, or what? You know, whatever it is. And then you'll follow that up with, you know, are you fed up trying to sit down? Are you always looking for the softest cushion? You know, this is really embarrassing. Wouldn't you like to be able to fix it? And this is really crude stuff, but you know, in both senses of the word. But that's really all you have to do. And then you say, I can help you solve that problem. All you need to do is, and then your call to action. So it might be if you've got piles, it'll be send off for this free sample. You know, how you get those little sachets in the post.
Yeah.
Send off for a little free sachet of something that will take their pain away. Because if it does take their pain away, you can bet your damn boots that they're going to be back in touch for a big pot of the stuff.
Yeah, brilliant. And the formula that you follow there, that, you know, if you want to improve on your copywriting, the formula that Vicky just shared with us there was getting their attention, first of all, creating some interest, desire, And the final thing is action. So you're telling the reader exactly what you want them to do. And be that in an email, your website, and so many times we see emails where people send out these emails talking all about us, and you kind of read it and go, well, so what? And there's nothing so frustrating sometimes, but they don't even say, call us now, respond to this email. And just given that what we call embedded command, it will so change the response you get from your copywriting. And thanks for that, Vicky. I know I really kind of put you on the spot there, but that's a great illustration there of somebody with a burning butt, as they say.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me something like that. I didn't know it was going to be about burning butts.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Cool. Actually, one thing I was just going to pick up on with the call to action thing. One thing that I absolutely can't stand seeing is, if you'd like to know more, give us a call.
Yeah.
Because I see some really strong sales messages followed up with the weakest call to action ever. And if you want somebody to do something, you've got to assume that people want to be led around and they want to be told what to do. So you have to tell them in no uncertain terms what to do, what's going to happen when they do it, what's going to happen if they don't do it, and then tell them what to do again.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Brilliant. So Vicky, what's been biggest breakthrough moment in your business over the past 12 months?
I think this isn't really anything to do with copywriting, but I think realizing that I am enough and that I don't have to go crazy worrying about whether I'm good enough, because actually I am. And I think a lot of business owners, and particularly female business owners, really struggle with this. We suffer from, I think, what they call imposter syndrome, the whole feeling like a fraud thing. And it's not just restricted to women, but I think women are particularly prone to it. But I am always worrying that I'm not doing enough for people and giving enough of myself and doing enough of a good job. And that's ridiculous, really, because whilst you should always want to kind of strive to do the best, worrying about not being enough when actually people, the people that work with you love you, you're doing okay. You're not, and you're doing more than okay. You're doing well. If you're getting results and people that you're working with are getting results and you are helping them, then that's good. That's enough.
Yeah.
You are enough.
Awesome. So, I mean, just on that, how did you overcome this? Like, how did this breakthrough come about? Sorry.
Practice, really. A few years ago, when I was suffering from awful depression, and I went and asked for help, which, by the way, is the single biggest and most difficult thing that most people will ever do, is ask for help. Yeah. And if you can just get past that barrier, that's the worst part of absolutely anything, is picking up the phone and saying, I need help. That's the thing that most people find most difficult. And I went to cognitive behavioral therapy and learned a whole load of ways to basically reprogram my brain. And it takes practice every day, because you have to practice this stuff. But you stop it, because a lot of people, we're prone to focus on the negative in our lives. Everybody is, because it is kind of an evolutionary survival trait, because it's better to assume that rock is a bear than assume that the bear is a rock, because rocks ain't going to eat you. So you do tend to focus on the negative, and you can get into a cycle whereby you're just always, it's called negative automatic thoughts, and you focus on the bad stuff to the detriment of the good stuff, and you kind of forget about the good stuff. And it's like when you get a shitty email from somebody on your list, you forget about the 10 lovely emails that you've had, and you just focus on this one crappy email that's upset you, which is ridiculous, because it's like you can choose to focus on the one arsehole who thinks you're a dick, or you can choose to focus on the 10, 20, 30 people who think you're awesome. And for some reason, our stupid brains focus on the one negative. And that's something that I struggle with every single day, because I'm just that type of person, I guess. Well, no, I'm not that type of person, because that's a bit of a fixed mindset way to look at things. But we are kind of programmed to focus on the negative, so you do have to practice it, and it's just really questioning everything. So as soon as you have a thought pop into your head that is kind of doing yourself down, take it out and have a look at it and say, well, is this actually really true, or is my brain distorting it? And 9 times out of 10, it's not true at all. And so that's how I think I have had my breakthrough, and that's focus and practicing that every day is how I continue to, get more done and not panic and do better for people, I think.
Awesome.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And couple of points you've raised there, and as you know, we email on a daily basis, and every now and then we will get somebody complaining about our email. And I mean, we've been doing it for long enough now that we do literally take up the pinch of salt. And a lot of times we're kind of grateful for it, because one of the things that we do with people that complain about emails, we actually use it for the next email. It's like a fodder for us. It's great for us. But I totally get what you said. When I first started doing this, we'd get 20 good emails, 20 good responses to an email, and I would spend all my time focusing on the one person that complained, or in my case, pointed out a typo. I don't think I've ever sent out an email without a typo.
Yeah, it's you're quite right, and it's ridiculous. It's our brains are amazing, and they're also really stupid. So so it's one of those things. But yeah, I use bad emails as fodder as well. I don't probably don't do it quite as much as I could, and some of them I don't use at all because I think it can make me look a bit petty. But so, yeah, I do the same thing as well. And I had somebody the other day tell me that my parents had done a horrible job and that I was going to hell, which was amusing.
Wow.
So that's and that was more insidiously nasty than the guy who wrote to me last year telling me to fuck off and die, because at least he was being upfront about it.
I love those emails. We do. We've got them all stored up. We just say, oh, we're keeping that one. And we'll use their names and everything. We absolutely love them. I just think they're great news for us. Drew says we just got an email here, and we go, great. We love
Excellent. I'm going to start doing the same, actually, because I don't use them enough, and I should. No, I don't get that many of them, actually, so I think I need to be a bit more obnoxious. But
I probably get about 2 to 4 a month. And I know you've no idea the pleasure it gives us when somebody complains. You've no idea. It really is. Honestly, we will spend a good 15 minutes coming up with a response to it that we're going to use, and we give their name and everything. I just love them. And the other thing that sorry.
No, I do like your emails. I think they're great. I store them all up in my. I have a folder, a Terry and Drew folder.
So Vicky, just on the subject of emails, again, you're one of the sort of few people we know that do send daily emails as well. Can you tell us about sort of what impact it had on your business when you first started doing that?
Yeah, when I first started doing it, I had nobody on my email list, and I wrote anyway. And I think that's a really important thing to do, because everybody starts from somewhere or nowhere. And the people that I started off with on my list, I wrote to my husband because he went on my list because he's nice like that. And then I kind of gathered a few friends and family who kind of, got on my list out of the goodness of their heart, just so I didn't feel like I was talking to myself until I'd built my list. But that's really, 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 really valuable, because it's a safe space for you to kind of build up your emailing chops, really, and you can just practice. But yeah, that's where I started, and then I started building my list with PPC and all the rest of it, and emailing every day. Yeah, that's how it's not just how I've got my best clients, but it's certainly bloody helped, and I wouldn't have built my inner circle, and it's still only small, and I'm still growing it, but I wouldn't have it at all were it not for email marketing, and that's really important, because it's not a time swap thing. I do it once and sell it multiple times, and that's kind of gold.
Yeah.
So that's what email marketing has done for me. Plus, I enjoy it. I really like writing them.
Yeah, excellent. And just going forward, something you said earlier about just kind of chopping a bit. Sorry, I'm going backwards and forwards here. But something you said earlier about CBT, or cognitive behavioural therapy, just wanted to add to, was I think this was shared with me probably about 7-8 years ago. Along the same line, was nothing has any meaning but the meaning you give it. Yeah,
that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, and I used to have that stuck on the previous office. I used to have that stuck on the wall. When somebody said something, or the one for me, Vicky, was when somebody said to me, "Give me a call, Terry, at 11 o'clock." So I would call them at 11, but they wouldn't be there, and I would give that so many meanings. Oh, they're not interested. They don't love me. That's bullshit. It was just the meaning I'd given to the situation, and for me that was a massive breakthrough in for the whole business. I'm going back, I say 7-8 years ago. Just getting that nothing has any meaning. It's just the meaning that you give it.
Yeah, and not taking stuff personally either, because that was another big breakthrough for me was, if somebody snaps at you or they write you a shitty email, it's not about you. It's not about you at all, and they're probably not even thinking about you. As, if somebody's grumpy with you, it might be that they've just stubbed their toe.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on in their head, and if you write an email that hits a nerve, that's their issue. And I'm not talking about if you say something really mean to somebody deliberately to hurt somebody's feelings. I'm not talking about that at all. But if you write your daily email, I remember getting a shitogram from somebody who was like, oh, that's really insulting and blah blah blah, and I just thought, well, I've obviously hit a nerve there, because nothing that I said was attacking her personally, and she knew that, really, but she'd taken massive offense to all this stuff, and I was just like, well, have I hit a nerve? Is there something in there that you're looking at and you see yourself in it, because it's got naught to do with me, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, really good point there. I did an email years ago, and I used the term sexy nurse. And I probably had half a dozen people calling me sexist. And I used it again because I didn't specify the gender of the nurse. You can have male nurses and female nurses. Who's sexist?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, because there's a whole. Oh, don't even get me started on that. Assume that nurse is a male thing. It's like, oh, yeah. Anyway.
Sorry. Yeah, we digress. So, what are problems that do clients come to you with, Vicky?
Okay, so there's two. I have two sets of clients. I've got my private clients who I write for. I write their copy, so they come to me, and usually now they're not struggling. They're people who are already doing well. My private clients are already doing very well, and they want to do better. So I will help them to improve their marketing or their copy. I will help them test it, measure it, tweak it to keep improving it, and work with them to improve their systems and their marketing generally. So it goes beyond copywriting, really. I'm not just a copy monkey. I also help them with their wider marketing systems, really. So if they've got a landing page that's just converting horribly, I won't just look at the copy. I'll look at how it's laid out and the buttons and the whole user system. So it might be that they've got this really awkward, clunky system in place that's stopping somebody from buying from them or whatever. So I'll do that for my private clients. I also write content for some of my private clients, so it's not necessarily direct response stuff. It's making their lives easier, really. That's basically what I do with my private clients. I make their lives easier. And take stuff off their shoulders, as well as helping them get results. And for my inner circle members, they get, much like you, they get print newsletter, teleclasses, personal video critiques of the stuff they send me, and they get accountability and encouragement and community. And I think that's what they really value. Is yes, I will help them by improving their own marketing and all the rest of it, because I can show them where they might be going wrong and how they might be able to improve. But I think they really appreciate having a little group of people that they can just sound off to about the stuff that we'll find crappy about running a business. And there's a bit of accountability there, because as you know, when you run your own business, you've got no accountability unless you go and find some. So I find that really useful as well. And just encouragement and having people say, you know what, it's okay, this is really hard, it's okay to hate it sometimes, and it's okay to want to give up sometimes, and it's okay to feel like shit sometimes, but don't stop. And I think that's how they find that very valuable.
Awesome.
I know I find it very valuable, so I hope they do. Probably going to get emails that go, nah, that's not what you do first at all.
Awesome, brilliant. And who's been the sort of the biggest influence on your business life?
Probably, I mean, there's two, because probably at the moment, John McCulloch, the Evil Bald Genius.
Yeah.
He has helped me to transform my business, and he's kind of done the whole, it's okay to be you thing. And he'd always say, I don't give people permission to do anything because I can't, but he kind of does, in a way, because he's really, really obnoxious. But he's also a really nice man, and he will object strenuously to that, but he is. And the other mentor is Peter Thompson, and he is the one who really started me off down this road, because I knew that I needed to do something different, but I didn't know what. And he's the one who showed me that actually running a business could be a lot more than just struggling along. So probably those two guys. And they're both men, and that irks me, because there aren't enough women doing this kind of thing. And one day I think I would quite like to be the person who, not for my own ego, but because I think there needs to be more women doing stuff like this. Because I think enough of us. So I would like to be in that position one day, or somebody else who, you know, I've worked with. I would like to be that kind of person. So there you go.
Excellent. Yeah, I think you made a good point there about it is dominated by men, isn't it? In fact,
yeah. And do you know why I think that is? Actually, no, there's lots of reasons why. But one of the things that really irritates me about women who do this kind of thing, and it's why I'm like the polar opposite, is they're all the pink fucking flip-flop brigade, and everything's pink. And their websites are pink, and they're all about heartpreneurs, and it just makes me want to vomit. And I know that appeals to quite a lot of women, and that's fine. I'm not disparaging that at all. But I think there's another section of women business owners out there like me who actually aren't interested in any of that pink hearts and flowers stuff, and we're, you know, a bit more, I don't want to say even blokey about it, because there's nothing really blokey about me, but just different type of woman business owner, and we're not catered for that much, I don't think.
That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody, the sort of female equivalent of a John McCulloch.
Yeah, I don't think there's any equivalent of a John McCulloch there.
It's me, Terry, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm slightly less obnoxious, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I know, again, I would endorse what you said there. I know John very well, and I know Peter Thompson, two really good guys there, and they've been a big influence on our business as well. Absolutely. And on that, if somebody was you knew was entering the business now, what this kind of business, if you could give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
If someone was entering my industry now, or any business now, just starting a business.
Sorry, any business now. Sorry, yeah.
It would be the Rob Lowe quote: "Just don't compare your insides to someone else's outsides," because that way, it's a recipe for misery and procrastination. If I find myself stalled and not able to do something, and I sit back and take a look at what my problem is often that I'm like, why am I not as good as that person there? And that's just so destructive. It's ridiculous. So that would be the thing that I would tell people: stop looking around at what everybody else is doing and concentrate on what you're doing.
Yeah, so to quote that again, never compare your inside to other people's outside.
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks, Vicky.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Vicky, where can our listeners go to find out more about what you do?
Okay, so the vaguely sensible stuff is in my book, and I say vaguely sensible because it's not that sensible, is businessforsuperheroes.com, and I have a blog, and I think you can sign up for my daily emails there, and if you can't, I'm damn well going to rectify it. And also, I've got a podcast as well. It's the Business for Superheroes show, and I present it with my husband, and we made somebody almost crash their car through laughing, so it must be all right. And we quite often spill gin all over the place, so we do that as well.
Excellent. And what about LinkedIn? And are you on LinkedIn, Vicky?
I am on LinkedIn. I don't use it as much as I should because I'm really distractible and I disappear down wormholes. But yes, I am on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm very happy to connect with almost anybody as long as you're not a crazy, stalky axe murderer.
No, I'm not that anymore, Vicky. I've heard that now. Excellent. Vicky, that was really good. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed that. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Drew, you did a good job there. Sorry, do I sound surprised?
Yeah, you do.
That was really good. Thank you. Seriously, thank you very much, Drew. Thank you very much, Vicky.
Thank you.
That was really insightful. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was like sitting around the fire having a chat with some mates. Really enjoyed that. Drew, I'm going to let you sign off. This is Terry Edwards. Take care, take action, and be relentless.